Welcome to Fresh Black Coffee.
This is what it is. This is who I am. This is where I finally take my stand. I didn't want to fall, but I don't have to crawl. I met the one with two-star hands, giving him the best of everything that's left of the life inside this man. I've been born again.
And now, here's Eddie and Dave.
Hey, everybody, this is Eddie Huff along with
David Van.
David Van. You like that, huh, David Van?
Yeah, just move on, right? I learned that from back in phone sale days back in college. You know, Van who? Van what? And, meanwhile, everybody else is on the phone making a sale, and I'm trying to spell my name.
That's good. That's good. Hey, welcome, everyone. This is Fresh Black Coffee, and as you heard, Eddie Huff, David Van.
Yeah.
Von Lissingham, as I like to pronounce it. But it's okay. We'll go with David Van here because we're in Oklahoma, where the wind comes whistling down the plains, right?
That's right.
Hey, Dave, quite a week. A lot of stuff going on nationally and locally. But let's go ahead and begin with, we always try to bring ourselves up and you up before we let you down.
Yes.
And then we try to pick you up. And ourselves, sometimes we just need to pick ourselves up. By the way, I'm wearing proudly my Texas Tech t-shirt today, even though the team sucks. But but hey, when you're a true fan, when you're a true alum, when you're a true faithful person, it doesn't matter, right? It's still your team, your school, your state, your nation. Your God. In reverse order, by the way. In reverse order, we should. Now, so when you get there, you start at the back end. You start with God, family, state, city, team.
Yeah.
All that.
I want to say I'm wearing purple today in honor of a washed-up Minnesota Vikings team.
Washed up.
Washed-up purple.
It's so weird because they're actually a pretty good team. They're not that bad a team.
Yeah.
Something's just not right. They're just not clicking.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the quarterback.
Yeah, Cousins,
Kirk.
Just
Well, but see, here's where the dilemma is on Kirk Cousins. He's a true believer. He's a Christian. I think you knew that. Did you know that? In fact, they have a whole clip of where he uses the word frick. He won't. So to keep from cursing, he says, "Oh, frick, frick, frick." So they have a whole 2 or 3 minute clip of where he misses or somebody where he gets hit. This stuff happens. Frick, oh frick, oh frick, 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 and it's kind of like "Let's go, Brandon."
Yeah,
right. It's like "Let's go, Brandon." But so Minnesota is a team. Kirk Cousins is a guy. I just can't not like him. You know what I'm saying? I'm not their fan, but they're the team that I never really root against. I may root for the other team a little more. Unlike the Dallas Cowboys. I can root against them every week.
See, I think the spirit of Tony Romo descended upon Kirk Cousins. Nice guy, just can't get it done.
Oh, man. You mean the curse of Tony Romo?
Yes.
Yeah, some guys are just made to be announcers, right? I mean, he's great at announcing. Quarterback, and not so much.
Well, not at that level. I mean, way better than us. I mean, let's be honest. But
well, yeah, I don't consider myself a quarterback. That'd be like me comparing myself to Ronaldo in soccer or something. Now it would be a whole.
Now you were what, a lineman?
Oh no, a receiver.
Receiver.
I grew into a.
I'm sorry.
I grew into a lineman's body or a linebacker at least.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to Steve August, formerly with the Seahawks. And he said, "Look, when I got into football, nobody weighed 300 pounds in the line."
No, I know.
He said, "When I left, there was nobody under 300 pounds in the line," and so but your height, I guess,
And I used to be taller.
Really? Well, a lot of us guys we don't.
It's called vertebra.
Yeah.
Vertebral.
Yeah.
Atrophy or something where your vertebrae shrink or the disc space decreases. That's what happens.
That's the disc.
So I've lost about a half inch.
We're dipping into our calcium reserves.
Yeah. But I will say this. and you've heard me talk about this before, and I'll speak to you again. I speak very fondly of this, and that's the low T centers. Okay, low T centers of America, they legitimately provide a service.
Sure.
Now, you can get it done at your doctor's office. Your doctor should be advising you of testosterone replacement. at
Oh,
a
yeah.
certain age.
Makes a big
Just like women. Women get the estrogen
Sure.
injections or supplements or whatever they need to get their estrogen to keep their femininity. And guys need to replace their testosterone. That's why our muscles tend to
Yeah.
deteriorate. Now, see, this is why I have.
Yeah.
Now, I wish I could do something to push everything that testosterone is up into
Yeah.
my face
Yeah.
and give myself but
My pecs have shifted down.
and my pecs. I'll tell you, the first time I realized that the testosterone may be working, I was in the bathroom getting ready for bed one evening, and I was brushing my teeth. And so as I'm brushing my teeth, I moved or something, and my pecs started flexing. And you know how Terry Crews, he's a black actor.
Okay, yeah.
And he's the guy that's always making
Oh, yeah.
his pecs
Yeah.
flex and stuff. And so I was like, whoa, look at that. It's like Terry Crews. So I'm sitting there in front of the bathroom making my pecs
Yeah.
do this kind of stuff. And it's a result of the testosterone.
Yeah, and I want to say, as somebody who's really focused on mental health, hormones are a wild card, whether it be testosterone or estrogen. James Dobson talked about his mother going through menopause and deep depression, and they tried all the typical psychotropic drugs, and it ends up she just needs some estrogen. And the same's true with guys. People I know very well who have thought they were going through some mental health crises, and they just got their testosterone checked, got it adjusted. And I mean, it wasn't psychosis type depression, but it was
Right.
enough.
You don't even know. You don't realize.
Yeah.
The biggest teller or the tell of you needing testosterone possibly is fatigue.
Yeah.
Like if in about 3 in the afternoon or 10 in the morning, you're like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you have no will,
Yeah.
as they say, your mojo is
Yeah.
gone. That's an early tell that you may need, and it's not just older people. I mean, it can happen to young guys too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but if you're under 60 and you're realizing an 8-hour day is difficult, you getting this kind of treatment will probably pay for itself just in your productivity picking back up.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. So, but anyway, I'm a big fan of testosterone replacement, and the people at Low T do a good job. It's
I'm
sad.
trying to look at where this was on our notes today.
You're not going to find it. Yeah. As we are wont to do weekly, I find something off the notes to deal with.
We're Pentecostal. We're moved by the Spirit.
Whichever spirit that might be, right? The spirit of man today. But no, I'm a little disappointed sometimes when I see these. I won't name any names, but some of these men's, clinics and centers and stuff like that focus on your performance in the bedroom and this and that, and she'll like it too. These kind of, and I just go, oh please, and the women are probably going, oh yeah, right, and so, but no, seriously, if you find the right place, if that's all they're doing is trying to help your sexual performance. Then you're in the wrong place, because they have helped me with so many things. For example, I don't know if you know or remember, but I've had bouts with blood clots, pulmonary embolisms,
That's right.
twice.
Yeah.
First time I had 4 in one lung and 2 in the other,
Wow.
and at any moment I could have dropped dead.
Yes.
In fact, DeGarmo and Key, who you know,
Yeah.
Dana Key,
And he died. Yeah.
2 weeks after I had mine. But his same exact thing, and he passed away because his blood clots hit his lungs or his brain, and boom.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing, it's a nice way to go.
Yeah, that's true.
You're just starved and you pass out and you're gone,
Yeah.
So it's not a tough, terrible, painful way to go. But if you're not ready to go and you want to stay around, then blood clots. But anyway, so they helped me. I went to my doctor. Okay, they treated the pulmonary embolisms and the blood clots with thinners and so forth. And I had these Lovenox injections into my stomach, which I had to do for 2 weeks every day, kind of like a rabies shot.
Yeah.
Only you have to give it to yourself. And so for 2 weeks, I had to do these, and it instantly, as soon as they hit that, it dissolves any clots in your system. It just, it's fast acting. It's like fast acting, tenactin. But
Drano.
but it goes right in and breaks up the clot. So I was saved. I said, the doctor, he came in when he found my doctor, because what happened, I went to an urgent care. They didn't catch it. I was coughing blood.
Yeah.
And I woke up in the morning, and I took a deep breath, and it felt like someone was stabbing me in the back. And so I called my doctor. I said, I don't know what's going on. I've got this pain. He says, oh, really? Did you go to an urgent care or anything? I said, yeah, but they didn't think anything was big. Or he said, did you get a CT scan? I said, no. He said, go get a CT scan right now. And I got the CT scan. I walked out into my car. I get a call immediately from the center where they were giving the CT. Mr. Huff, you're to go across the street to ER.
Yeah.
Don't go home.
Yeah.
Don't do anything. Just go right to the ER and call your wife and tell her to meet you there. Pack a bag.
Wow.
Okay. And so I go over there. This is kind of funny. St. Francis, packed out. That ER room, it was ridiculous.
It's horrible. It's like hurting.
So my wife's in there. She meets me there. She has this bag. We just walk in, and it's packed. And there would happen to be one empty seat there. And so I decide to see if my wife could sit down. I didn't care. I'll stand up.
Yeah.
Because I was pretty nervous. I'm kind of worried here. And so I go, and this person is, you can't sit there. I said, oh, I'm sorry. There's somebody. Yeah, you just can't sit there. I said, okay. And before I could say anything else, Mr. Huff? And they called me right up into the. So I didn't even have to sit down. We just checked in. I thought I was going to have to sit down saying, oh, great. But they instantly called us in. And I just looked at the person that had been sitting there that didn't want us to sit down. And I just kind of winked at them. They turned around and walked in. And then they gave me the Lovenox shot immediately, and the doctor. And I said, it sounds like it could be pretty serious. He said, instant death.
Yeah.
So seriously, instant death. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know. You hear these terms, pulmonary embolism, blood clot, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't mean anything until you're the guy.
Yeah. There's actually a 2-word passcode that gets you to the head of the line at any ER. It's called chest pains. If you got chest pains, they may not give you full service yet, but they're going to get you back there to check on your.
Now, I understand there's a 1-word thing. It's called triage. I'm serious. That's what they told us. When you go tell them this is a triage case, they put you right to the head of the line.
Yeah.
So a little bit of free stuff that's, again, not in our notes today, but we tend to do that. So it's free. It doesn't cost you anything extra today other than listening. But anyway, welcome again to Fresh Black Coffee. And Dave, let's do some Babylon Bee here today, okay? Let's see what you got. What do you got?
All right. Headline news, national report. Bernie retires as his vision of making the U.S. just like Venezuela has finally been realized. From Washington, D.C., Bernie Sanders is retiring as a U.S. Senator as his lifelong vision of making sure that America becomes just like Venezuela and other socialist countries has finally been achieved amid Bernie's supply chain crisis. The Biden supply chain crisis. Quote, it's just refreshing to see these empty shelves, says Bernie. Reminds me of simpler times visiting Cuba and the Soviet Union back in my heyday, he said to himself as he took a stroll through his local grocery store. He stopped by the deodorant aisle and smiled. Not a single stick of deodorant to choose from. My work here is done. And that's from
not a single stick of deodorant is here. My work is done. Oh man, those guys. I love their motto. The Babylon Bee, fake news you can trust. You can trust it better than CNN, which is real news that you can't trust. It's exactly the opposite. By the way, you've heard this thing now? We've come out with Superman is gay. He's finally come out.
Oh,
have you heard?
No, I haven't.
Yeah. Instead of kryptonite, the new LGBTQ plus Superman will be crippled by anyone using the wrong pronouns. Oh man, these guys, the way they can get away stuff, oh yeah, he said, worship leader suddenly ascends into glory after learning the fifth chord.
Ooh, yes.
Learn the fifth chord.
That's the take me to heaven chord.
Yeah. These guys, I mean, that's why I like. I like when they go, all over the place and deal with stuff that's not so. In keeping with something we've been. I'm sorry. I'm just reading this and cracking up. The heading. In keeping with something we've been talking about, the Let's Go Brandon deal.
Yeah.
Okay. They've got backed up cargo ships positioned to spell out, Let's Go Brandon.
Yes.
And for those of you that don't know, one of the reasons your shelves are empty in many of these places, except Target. My wife says Target seems to be loaded, but you go to Walmart, Reesers, any of these other places, you're starting to see bare shelves. But anyway, so what they're saying is that the cargo ships that are backed up because what's his name? Newsom, I guess, won't let them come into the port of Los Angeles and Long Beach and all. And so,
Jeez.
yeah, I know, who knows why, but they decided to spell out, Let's Go Brandon in the harbor, in the ocean. These guys, seriously, it's not just, I envy them, really. I envy the staff of Babylon Bee because can you imagine if all we had to do is what we're doing right now?
Yeah.
But to be creative, that and commercial writers, you got a bunch of guys sitting in a room and they're getting paid to do what we used to like to do in junior high and high school.
Yeah.
At least I did. I wasn't the best of students,
Yeah.
but I did enjoy getting into it with my buddies.
My son actually came super close to getting to run The Onion. His company,
Really?
yes, Consumer Affairs here in Tulsa, which is a big web development company,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, massive. They actually were in negotiations to buy out The Onion. Gosh, I'm trying to think. There was a chain of them, and it was owned by some people that got sued by Peter. The guy that started PayPal. They started exposing things in his personal life, and he sued him for it, and he won a big judgment. And so all of a sudden it put all those on the chopping block. And he come to me one time, he says, "Oh, Dad, if we get that bunch," he says, "I'm going to beg and plead, let me run The Onion." Because The Onion is kind of the secular version.
Right.
Of what Babylon is.
That's all Babylon, or Babylon Bee is the Christian version of The Onion. Yeah. So, no, I agree. But anyway, this same article dealing with cargo ships. While a tremendous backlog at Long Beach and dozens of cargo ships helplessly stranded in the ocean, waiting to be unloaded, the board crews have arranged their ships to form the words of the patriotic cheer, taking the world by storm. Let's go, Brandon. I can't wait for college and pro football games this weekend to see how many Let's Go Brandon signs and chants we hear.
Yeah. I don't know. It depends if they sell beer at the stadium, because I think after about the third quarter, people aren't going to want the euphemism. They're going to want to do the full-throated.
You mean the one they actually did?
Yeah,
that started the Let's Go Brandon cheer.
Yeah.
In fact, it's funny because I saw there was a game the other night, a baseball game, a Major League Baseball game, and somehow they cut to a sign. It was a Let's Go Brandon sign.
Yeah.
Someone sitting behind the dugout, and the guy says, "Simple and concise." That's what the announcer actually said.
Yeah.
Simple and concise. So, oh my goodness. I'll tell you, as we said, this is a rage that seems to be crossing the country. I was at a post office, et cetera, place yesterday, mailbox, et cetera, one of those. It wasn't that, but it was one of like that.
Sure. And
there was a lady there, and the words "Let's Go Brandon" happened to come out, and the lady just started cracking up.
Yeah.
And everybody knows pretty much what that's talking about.
it's dog whistle.
Yeah, it's a dog whistle. Yeah, a good one. A good dog whistle, too. So anyway, this has been quite a week. We got a lot of stuff going on. One thing that just came out yesterday, and Dave, I mean, seriously, it's really kind of bugging me, and that is, I don't know if you heard the latest on the NCAA.
No.
Okay, NCAA has decided. Now, it's one thing you've heard of lowering standards.
Yeah.
Okay, they've decided to just get rid of the standard.
Which one is that?
The standard that you have to have grades to get into college.
Yeah.
So now they have totally abandoned test scores for admission to college on these NCAA teams.
Well, how about that?
Oh, yeah, how about that? So now all you have to do is be good in sports
Yeah.
or send a photo of you on a rowing machine.
Yeah. The motto is, let's be honest.
Well, I guess, yeah, that could be honest.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be real honest with you.
Yeah.
You're going to have a whole lot of dummies and idiots that should not be in school clogging up classrooms. I mean, think of this, okay? If you get rid of an academic standard and you're going to just let all these athletes come in now, you've got kids, there's only room for so many, okay? Kids in universities. So you're pushing out young people that are actually there to learn, which is university is supposed to be for. You call it higher education,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Are schools of higher education, and we're no longer about education.
No, we're not.
So we're going to let the lowest in, the least deserving to be in college. We're going to let them in, and not only that, guess what?
What?
We're going to pay them.
Oh, yeah. Now they're
They
paid.
can now get paid.
Yeah.
I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
What has happened to my country?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't think I would send my kid. I have this deal against private schools. You may have heard. I'm not a proponent of private Christian.
Oh, the prep school kind
the
of
prep.
thing.
Well, even any of your private Christian schools. I think that's one of the things that's wrong with the country now. I've said this many times. I've gotten into arguments and debates on KFAQ, the former KFAQ. And one of the reasons is that I believe because as it's not about the kids, it's about the parents. As the parents left, we left the PTAs, we left the school boards, we left everything that controls education. So
You're saying that's happening in the public schools.
that's happened to the public school.
The parents who care have just taken flight.
They've taken flight and gone to the Christian schools. And so now what you've done, when the people say, like if somebody says, well, public schools are going to hell, I want to say, yeah, you sent them there.
Well, whose job is it to fix them?
The parents.
The parents who've been disserved, whose job is to raise their kids.
Right?
And you're saying that they're the reason because they took their kids out. For what reason? Did they want to homeschool? Did they want them to go to religious school? Did they just want them to go to a prep school? Because there are various reasons people leave.
Yeah, and they all surround one thing,
What?
the selfishness of my kids.
A kid with such severe learning disability that the public school can't.
Well,
reach
yeah,
them.
okay, that's a different issue. I mean,
Well, it is one of them.
Well, yeah, but sure. So if you've got a child that needs private tutoring, special education, et cetera, then just imagine if they had set up private schools
Yeah.
specifically for ADD, ADHD, autistic, you name it.
Yeah.
Down syndrome kids. In fact, these days when I'm looking at TV and some of these TV shows and commercials, Down syndrome kids are not the Down syndrome kids that I knew when I was growing up.
Yeah.
People have actually taken time and taken energy and effort into these kids' lives.
Yeah.
You've got them doing commercials. They don't even look Down syndrome. I mean, it's amazing what we can do
Yeah.
when we focus on an issue.
Okay.
But most people fled. Now, this is where I'm going to sound like I'm a Black Lives Matter supporter or somebody like that. But I agree that there was a period of time when people took their kids out of public school because of integration of schools.
Yeah.
In certain parts of America, okay?
Yeah.
Even and when I say certain parts of America, I'm not just talking about the South. I'm talking about North.
Oh, yeah.
Boston was one of the worst. In fact, did you know John F. Kennedy, who forced the integration of the University of Alabama, Ole Miss, you remember that whole
Yeah.
deal? John F. Kennedy was from New England, from Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Well, did you know that those schools were segregated into the 80s?
Wow.
1981 is when they actually finally desegregated the Boston schools.
Yeah.
And it created almost near riots.
Well, when we get back from break, I'd like to throw an analogy at you and see how it compares.
Okay, we're going to fight it out.
All right.
We can fight it out. And I don't want to lose focus on the initial thing. We talked about the NCAA and so forth. But hey, guess what? We'll be right back after these messages. If I can turn this thing on.
I'm Jeff Davis with Just a Thought. Yesterday, I mentioned Attorney General Merrick Garland's having the FBI monitor parents who criticize school boards against critical race theory. In my opinion, only one part of establishing a police state. The late Senator John McCain said Garland, a failed nominee for the Supreme Court, was not well qualified to serve on the court. Now he's the nation's top cop. Garland is owned by the far left. He's proved in the past that he is no fan of the Second Amendment and the right to own firearms, and his FBI threat against parents challenging school boards and critical race theory has a conflict of interest problem. His son-in-law runs a leftist organization that champions the idea that school systems are built on white supremacy. Critical race theory is part of his organization's effort to change teaching in America. In California, Governor Newsom is requiring graduates to study critical race theory to graduate, but real education seems to be less important. Our children's education and future national security are at risk because of these people. Just a thought. I'm Jeff Davis.
Okay. All right, we're back. Dave's up arranging our camera.
Yeah. There we go.
For those of you that will see the video, you'll probably not see most of this. But
Yeah.
anyway, we are adjusting. Julian's not here today, by the way.
Yes.
That's why Julian is visiting his sister in Oklahoma City, or actually
Yes.
Norman, where University of Oklahoma is. She's a freshman. Amelia is a freshman there at the University of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And so the family is visiting there.
Yes, October 16th is now Julian Appreciation
I'm sorry,
Day.
hold on. Another reason.
There you
because
go.
Julian,
Yes, today is Julian Appreciation Day.
there we go.
Yes, and Joe Biden even, I think, stepped in and spoke about it too, but in his own way.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah. So that's what's
All right.
going on. We have a few technical glitches, which you may or may not see.
Yeah,
So if you don't hear this,
Yeah.
you won't know what you're
Yeah.
missing. Okay, Dave. So we're going to continue
All right.
here. The original issue was that the NCAA has decided to drop test scores for getting into
Yeah.
university.
yeah,
Let me add this little thing to that. My son, my youngest son, was the director of operations for Georgia Tech football.
okay.
And one of the problems with Georgia Tech, they always had good coaching, good programs, but they're really limited on who they will take.
Oh,
Like most universities will take a lot of these junior college transfers. So you
Sure.
get young guys at Tech, you've got to hit your minimum test scores and everything to get in, first of all.
okay.
And then once you're there, you're okay. But they're not going to take, they had a policy, they would not take junior college
Well-
transfers, and you had to have a certain test score. Yet
Yeah.
they were still able to do well.
Well, I do want to say something as a homeschool dad. For years, the NCAA treated all homeschoolers as high school dropouts. And the only way you as a homeschooler could play Division I NCAA was you had to first go to junior college to get qualified to play.
See,
the
that's just silly.
right.
I mean, that's
So
silly because you had the SAT, the ACT, and homeschoolers traditionally outscore
yeah,
the others.
yeah. But I really have a problem here with what you're saying about
Yeah, let's get
prep
back
schools.
to this. Right, right.
And you want to? What was your conjecture?
Yeah, okay, there's a couple of things going on here, okay? First of all, I always go back to John 17, where Jesus is praying by himself.
Oh, now you're putting scripture in to try to really make it sound.
Yeah,
like-
Lord, I need all the help I can to convince this heathen over here that I'm right,
Okay.
that I'm right.
So
No,
the scripture says he's
the
right.
scripture, according to the word of God,
Yeah.
remember, emphasis on God with
Yes,
capital G.
God.
God, yeah. Now, Well, no, here's the deal.
17.
This is what formed the basis of my thinking. It started spiritual, and then it actually went more secular. But my thing is this: Jesus said, "Father, I pray that you do not take them out of the world, or I do not pray you take them out of the world, but that you keep them in the world, but not of it."
Yeah.
So what I've seen, what actually happened, they were not in the world, but they were of it. It's actually the exact opposite of what Jesus prayed.
Yeah.
So that's the spiritual aspect. So, and I'll give you, we talked about, was it 3 weeks ago, I went to El Paso, Texas, to my Jesus Chapel reunion, the Jesus movement, where a bunch of Jesus freaks got saved. Those kids, the high school kids, had every day at lunch in the stadium, they had, I guess, a prayer meeting. And they would get together in the stadium, the football stadium, and they would have hundreds of kids show up at this. Guys are leading worship, they're praising God, and they're preaching. High school kids, we're talking sophomores, juniors, seniors in high school, okay? This is the group that I ended up getting saved through. A bunch of young high school kids that were in public school, and they were affecting these public schools all throughout the city. I think the same thing was happening in Southern California. It's probably around the country. Okay. So you had all these kids in public school. All of a sudden, as the church grew, the popularity of the contemporary church, particularly charismatic churches, what did they do? They decided, well, we need Christian schools. So in fact, if you remember, probably early 70s is when it hit. You could actually have your Christian television, you had your Christian schools, you had your Christian doctors, you had your Christian butcher shop, tire shop. In fact, I remember I was in seminary out in California, and I would go down to Costa Mesa. Everything was Maranatha. You had the Maranatha meat market. You had no joke, Maranatha meat market, Maranatha tire shop. Everything was Maranatha. Everybody had a fish on their little business to attract these things that we are Christians, okay? Yeah. And so, but as what happened then, and I think Pat Robertson may have been a part of this, but encouraging people to take their kids out and start these private Christian schools. Yeah. Now, they weren't fleeing over racial issues, which is what secular media and everybody would have you believe. They honestly thought our kids can get a better spiritual foundation. Yeah, it's values. If we sent But instead of fighting and going after this and wanting to re-impart Christian values into the public schools, we pulled out, and then each time a group pulled out, the level of influence dropped more and more and more. And so eventually, and it's not so much about the kids, but what is it? It's the parents of the kids who give the direction to where the school is going. So when you see these parents now being drug out, beat up, and everything out of parent-teacher meetings,
because their daughter got raped, right?
Exactly.
That was the Loudoun County.
Right, exactly. That's the main one that's been coming up. That is happening because you have pure, ungodly, I'm going to say godless, unbelieving, uncaring people running the school boards. Yeah. And in many cases, if not most, the principals, assistant principals, all of the superintendents, the people at the education centers and everything, they're godless people that don't understand and don't want to understand. They don't care because you are their enemy. Yeah. So you basically have given the enemy fodder. Now, here's the problem. You may think that, well, I'm raising my godly, great kids to be an influence later. Problem is they can't be, because they will be shut out of everything in society. Do you know how the communists actually operated? I didn't even realize this. I thought they just tortured and killed all the Christians, okay? Initially, for the revolution, that was happening. But actually what they did, and this is an example for us today, to be a member of the Communist Party, you had to renounce God. You had to be an atheist, and you had to support the secular system. To be, And if you weren't a party member, you could not be a teacher, you could not be a doctor,
you're
you
right.
couldn't go to university,
Okay.
you couldn't do anything. Hold on, let me finish. I'm on a roll here.
Yeah, I know.
You couldn't have any position of influence in society.
Mhm.
You could work as a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker,
Mhm.
anything low level jobs. You could exist,
Mhm.
but you cannot have any influence.
Yeah,
We have an example of that today in the Democrat Party.
yeah,
That basically you got to swear to the church of secularism
Mhm.
and renounce your faith and attack anything that has faith to do with it.
Mhm.
And if we continue to give them power and we can continue to let them control things like our school boards, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse
Right.
and worse.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah.
you're-
Okay. I'm going to switch orders here. To make a real quick point. You and I were talking on Facebook.
get right in there. Get
Right.
right in there. Let's
You and I were talking on Facebook one time, and we were talking about 61st and Peoria. And I mentioned that I'm less than a mile from that intersection. And you told me, get the heck out of there. And I said, no, I want to restore this neighborhood. And you finally recovered yourself. Oh, that's an honorable thing. But you first told me, get the heck out of there.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, okay. Now I'm going to move on.
I disavow any knowledge.
Okay.
No,
I will move on.
Okay.
So, but see, I was demonstrating that very thing you're now saying about the schools. Now I want to switch it here. When Debbie and I were expecting our first, back then you had to take childcare classes if the dad wants to be in the labor and delivery room. And this was at City of Faith Hospital, brand new Christian hospital. And that's another problem. What do we do with Christian hospitals, right? But my point was, another couple was in there. They're from Claremore, Cherokee Indian couple. This was their second pregnancy. Their first one, which ended up in labor and delivery at the Cherokee Indian Hospital, the Claremore Indian Hospital, ended up with a dead baby before even coming out of the womb, and then they just left the couple to deliver their own dead baby.
Wow.
And they said, this one, we are going in debt to have this baby delivered at a good hospital. Now, what's the difference here? Their first baby's dead. They're getting the heck out of there because they already killed one of their kids. That's their opinion. I'm saying, how about applying that attitude to schools and the spiritual lives and the well-being and the development of all that your child can be?
Okay. My response to that would be, at some point, someone has to be willing to make a sacrifice. And I'm not joking. It's tragic that their child died.
Yeah.
But if they had united with other families who had the same situation and brought enough attention to that to make a change at the Indian hospital,
Yeah.
then maybe more babies won't die.
Right.
But for them to leave, it was good for their baby, but it didn't help with the other babies that
Yeah.
were going to not be born in that
Yeah.
hospital because of
Yeah.
malfeasance
Yeah.
or whatever. Okay. So that's what I'm saying.
Mhm.
It's one of those things, again, it gets to, I don't care about your kids, I'm just worried about mine.
Mhm.
Now, that's good to a point if you're raising your kids properly because it's your responsibility for your kids.
Mhm.
But for general education, we cannot have that attitude. And in fact, when I was still a missionary overseas and I came home to this St. Jesus Chapel, they started their own school. That's what happened. And sure enough, what happened at those high schools, it died. Okay, those lunchtime meetings, because they took all those kids
Yeah.
out and they all started going
Yeah.
to Christian school. So I remember I was in Germany and I was reading this Stars and Stripes, which is the military
Yeah.
newspaper every day, Stars and Stripes. And so I'm reading Stars and Stripes in Germany, and they showed some Gallup poll where it said that children in Christian schools had the same teenage pregnancy rate of secular schools. Maybe 1 or 2% less or something, but they were right up there.
Right.
It was like 60-some%.
Yeah.
Oh no, this can't be. And I remember saying, oh, not Jesus Chapel School. They're, no, I don't know what Christian schools they're talking about.
Yeah.
But it can't be my Christian school. So we come back on furlough, and I'm meeting with the principal, who's a good friend of mine, and we're talking in his office, and he said, oh man, it's been a terrible year. So really, he said, yeah, 7 of our 20 seniors, girls, got pregnant this year and had babies. And I'm sitting there saying, no.
Yeah.
And because I so much held the Christian school to so much of a higher standard.
Yeah.
And then we came back and we put our kids in a Christian school.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did.
That's right, folks. He put his kids in a Christian school. Okay.
Exactly. That's the beginning of the story. You just fell for my trap. So my kids, I made them sign a letter.
Yeah.
I wrote a letter. I, Talitha Elad, Zach Michael Huff, of my own free will, my own mind, choose to go to this Christian school against the wishes of my father.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, I pledge that I will never, ever complain about this school since I chose to go to this school.
Oh, that's the trap.
And so, I made him sign it. We dated it, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
By their sophomore year, they wanted out.
Wow.
And I took him out.
Sure.
There was a party. My daughter and her friend went to. They were both in public school. It was a party that these kids from the Christian school. My daughter and friend said, oh, we're going to go see our friends at this party. When they got there, all the kids at this Christian school were asking them what drugs they had.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were the only 2 that came to the school that did not do drugs.
Yes.
Had nothing to do with drugs.
Yes.
And yet this was this Christian school kids party.
Yes. And I will add to that real quick. My 2 sons had 2 of their friends die of drug overdoses, both from that same school that I think you're referring to.
And so what it taught me was that I would say here's why I see a lot of kids that graduate from Christian schools reject that everything about it after. It's because when my kids and other kids went to public school and they saw the teachers and the kids acting bad and crazy, they could say, well, what do you expect?
Yeah.
They don't know the Lord.
Yeah.
But when you see it in your Christian school or in your church or in that whole setting, your youth group, then what do you say?
Yeah.
Oh, they're no better than the people.
Exactly.
Why am I sacrificing, giving all of this up when this is no better than what's out there?
Yeah. And I do want to say something I'm sure you're going to agree with me on. Just because your kids aren't currently enrolled, or maybe just because your kids aren't school age, doesn't mean you can't be just as passionately involved in the school board, in the public school district, because everybody has a voice. They don't get to tell you get out of here just because you don't have a kid enrolled.
Yeah, your tax dollars are paying.
Right. And this is the shame, because once people pull their kid out, they no longer care. They don't even show up for election day on school boards.
Right.
It's
And
terrible.
I think a part of that, though, to their defense or their credit, Dave, I think they probably don't know what power they might have.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? In other words, my kids aren't going to that school, so it could be I don't care any longer. But on the other hand, some may care, but they think I have no input.
Right.
I have no right to say it
Yes.
because my kid's in there. So I agree totally with that even though you should still make it a point that when it comes to these school board elections, find out who these people are running, gather everyone together, and fight against these bad policies and bad superintendents.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a perfect time to transition to the superintendent of public education in the state of Oklahoma,
Yeah.
who is terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. I'm trying to make sure I don't get in trouble. I think to say that this lady is as dumb as a rock does a disservice to rocks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yet they have chosen and made her the superintendent
Yeah.
of public education in the state of Oklahoma. And now they've been bamboozled.
Yeah.
Because now she ran as a Republican.
Mm-hmm.
Now she knows she doesn't stand a prayer of winning as a Republican.
For governor. She's running for governor.
She's running for governor. All
Yeah.
right. Thanks.
Yeah.
David.
She's termed out 8 years as her superintendent. Yeah.
So now she wants to be the governor, and because she knows she has no prayer on the other side, she decided to change parties.
Yeah.
Which I'm very happy for her to do, because I hope people now see what they voted for several years ago when they voted
Yeah.
against Janet Barisi.
Yeah.
Janet Barisi made mistakes. I tried to tell her what her big mistake was.
Yeah.
She refused. I think she fell on the sword in defense of the governor. She was
Yeah.
such a good friend of the governor,
Mhm.
wanting to support the governor. That she
The
actually-
former governor.
the former governor,
Yeah,
thank you.
Mary Fallon.
Mary Fallon, that she fell on her sword because
Mm-hmm.
I people that worked for her, around her, everyone was telling her, you've got to reject Common Core. One issue killed her right
Yeah.
there, Common
Yeah.
Core. She would not come out against Common Core
Yeah.
because Mary Fallon supported Common Core because she was joined at the hip with Jeb Bush.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the
the
governor's
Florida
yeah,
thing, where
yeah.
it seemed to work, and nobody told the truth that the reason that minority kids and other kids were doing better is not because they were doing better, but they lowered the
Yeah.
standard
Yeah.
to make it look like
Yeah.
they were doing better. So
Yeah.
anyway, how are we doing on time?
We
do
still
need
got another
break?
10 more
Okay,
minutes
all right, great.
before we get
I'm
into-
sorry, Dave. I keep stealing your fire.
No, it's. I think we're going to agree on a number of things, and I thought that was great insights you brought just to wrap up on your public schools in the exodus from them. I do say this, Eddie. I would not go so far as to going in the face of an individual parent and assuming that what their decision was for them was wrong. I think on a broader perspective, I think it's a question everybody should ask, the very points you're making about, is it in the best interest overall for us to take our kids out? And I can't answer for them. Just like on vaccine policy, everybody has to make that decision for themselves without coercion. But
I agree.
yeah,
That's
now
correct.
I want to add a little bit of background to this Joy Hoffmeister thing. Barisi was the incumbent. She's running for election in one of the more prominent campaign consulting companies, then got with the Democrats. Now, this is all documented in criminal court indictments from 2016. It was David Prater, DA over there in Oklahoma County, showing how that there was a mixture of dark money working with the campaign team, which is now illegal, and these longtime Democrat operatives in the education industry said, okay, you get us somebody that can run as a Republican, we'll fund them, and then the assumption is they're going to run and then they're going to serve on our agenda. And the reason I have evidence of that is because back up to 2018, teacher strike. Where was Hoffmeister? AWOL.
Yeah.
Okay. The OEA had the run of every microphone, and the person that should have actually declared this a wildcat strike and sanctioned every school district who didn't fire them because they broke the law. They should have been fired for, leaving work while they're in a contract. In union labor laws, that's called an illegal wildcat strike. Instead, these school districts said, oh, we're going to close classes. And now it's no longer a wildcat strike. They cover for them. But our teachers, the superintendent just went away, just looked the other way. That tells me she's in the bag for them. The second thing I want to say on it, when they had to close for COVID last year, early on, she demanded Epic, which is an online virtual, also cease operations. And I talked to the founder of Epic. He said he was in a conference call with all these superintendents where the superintendents complained to Hoffmeister, you can't let Epic get this advantage on us. And so she shut down perfectly safe, perfectly healthy education in the biggest school district in Oklahoma, just to keep them from getting advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they still became the biggest school district,
Yeah.
almost doubled, and still are, which, by the way, I have to say on Epic, the indictments, the grand jury just came back now. This is like the 10th grand jury in 10 years.
I know.
No indictments. In
It's
fact,
like Trump.
yeah.
It's like Trump.
And so 1889 Institute does an article on it, and here's their headline: Grand jury indicts itself with report on Epic charter schools. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. In fact, every time it turns around, there's the Tulsa World.
Yeah.
And what's the new one? The Frontier. Is it the Frontier?
Yes. Yeah.
Supposedly
The
in
nonprofit.
Yeah. Yeah. So they keep, we got Epic. They go, they're always Epic this, Epic that. And I just go, I like to just mess with them.
Yeah.
I said, oh, really? Yeah. Okay. Show me how that works out for you.
Yeah.
Because I know, you know the people. I know the people. I was involved in the initial getting it started here. I did commercials for them when they first started, and they came over here.
Yeah. Cheney and Harris.
Yeah. And yet, so we know that these guys are straight and clean. I mean, they do it.
Yeah.
They're just good.
Yes.
These are some intelligent people, and not only are they intelligent, they're business people. They know how to do
That's
it.
right.
They stay within the law. They're not dumb.
Yeah.
They know that the people are out after them with a long
Yeah.
knife.
I want to tease something.
And therefore, they're able to do this. So
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
walked over you.
No, that's all right. Good.
I want to tease
You do it all
something.
the time.
Yeah.
Your people have been walking over my people.
Oh, God, it's getting thick in here. Got a shovel. All right. I want to say the former mayor of Newkirk, a friend of mine, Brian Hobbs, is actually said there is a documentary being prepared that's going to chronicle the rise and fall of the Epic. And they haven't fallen. They're still stronger than ever.
So they're just waiting for the fall so they can finish the movie.
No, I mean, keep in mind, he's the cousin of Ben Harris, okay?
Right.
And he said just to chronicle how they took them out, because they're continuing, they're still the biggest.
Oh, yeah.
But in order to keep their charter, you know what was the stipulation? You got to get rid of those two guys, and then you can stay in business. That's literally what the state did. Said you got to get rid of those two guys. The guys who have the vision and the passion. And
have they sued? Have the two guys sued? Had a countersuit? Because that's basically against the law.
Yes.
I mean, you can't ask them, make somebody fire somebody because you don't like how big they are.
Gary Richardson is their lawyer.
Oh, okay. Go Gary.
Yeah.
Go Gary.
Okay.
Yeah, it's such a silly thing. And here's what's really funny. These same people who were so opposed to the online school thing and are so opposed to Epic, as soon as COVID came around, everybody was a charter school.
Yes.
Everybody was an online charter school.
Yeah, good.
And the whole district, every district, Tulsa, Union, Bixby, Broken Arrow, Oklahoma City, Norman, they were all virtual schools. And the BS they keep feeding people, I mean, I just can't, I don't know how people keep buying it. I don't see how people in Los Angeles are doing it. It just seems silly because I remember we were complaining about overcrowded classrooms. This is about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And so they made the big deal out of it. Then what do? They close 14 schools. Not one, not four, 14 schools in North Tulsa in particular.
Yeah.
And then they push all those kids in other schools. Well, wait a minute. I thought you had an overcrowding problem. Why don't you take some of the kids from those so-called overcrowded schools and funnel them to the other schools?
Oh, yeah.
That are.
Well, yeah. I mean,
there weren't enough kids. I mean, the reason they closed them is said there weren't enough kids in them. So how can you have, you're overcrowded and then you have to close schools because you don't have enough kids?
Right. So they're doing that, number one. Number two, they're saying we're losing our best teachers. Guess what they're doing? They're offering them early retirement to get rid of them so they can hire lower priced teachers. Our best teachers are gotten rid of by our superintendents and our school boards because they don't want to pay them what the salary schedule was already agreed on to pay them.
Yep.
You know, and I talked to some parents from Union that their kid was really advanced in speech, and then finally senior year, and this kid's, just, it's like the biggest thing why they go to school. And the teacher leaves after the first week, and for the rest of the year, they have a substitute teacher. And it's rotating substitute teachers. And And then this parents had the audacity to go to a political debate for David Brumbaugh's old seat and complain that it's the legislator's fault. And finally, the widow of David Brumbaugh says, your problem is with your school board, and you should be screaming and yelling because that's a terrible travesty. And let me tell you something, teachers will never be paid what they're worth in Oklahoma, and I'll tell you why, and this is important, is because if they're paid what they're worth, they won't go to the Capitol anymore. And the administrators need them to go to the Capitol because nobody cares when superintendents storm the Capitol. But when Susie's fourth grade teacher does, now all of a sudden we got to do something.
Yeah, we've got to do something about our educational system, people. But again, I'm not sure that fleeing the public schools is the answer.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the answer is unless in mass we have our parents start putting their kids back into public schools. I mean, imagine if all of a sudden in Tulsa, 10,000 homeschool kids, the parents say, we're uniting, like take the homeschool organization, the whole group, and they decide, we're going to go back to BA, Union, and Tulsa, and we're going to take over, and then we will take over the school boards, we will demand this, we will see to the hiring of the superintendents, et cetera, et cetera. I know seems like a pipe dream, okay, because that is the ideal.
Yeah.
But short of that, I don't think we're going to be able to make any difference, Dave. All right, we got to take another break, people. Thank you for watching and putting up with all of this. We welcome your input, freshblackcoffee.podbean.com. You can do freshblackcoffee@gmail.com, or you can do it at freshblack.coffee.
That's where the video is.
.coffee, that's where the video is.
Yep.
And you can check us out there and communicate with us there. And whatever, I'm sure if you really want to communicate with us, you'll find a way. Anyway, we'll be right back with our final segment after this.
I'm Jeff Davis with Just a Thought. From the world hindquarters of dubious news, it's Fake News Friday. In fake news, Twitter's making it easier to report fake news with a button. But unfortunately, no button to tell them when they're wrong. President Biden made a false statement, imagine that, about the potential economic impact of his legislation creating 2 million jobs. A majority of Americans now would like to see him lose his. An old video of a man being chased by people in hazmat suits to force a vaccine was a spoof, but many people believed it. A picture showing oil tankers waiting to dock in Thackerville, Oklahoma, was actually a picture in Bangladesh. Anyone thinking it was real needs a geography lesson stat. Claims that the infrastructure bill contains a $2,600 tax on a head of cattle are false. It was called a cow tax, so the cows can pass gas all they want, no charge. The Biden administration claimed his bills will cost $0. Well, by the time they're done, dollars will be worth zero. Just a thought. I'm Jeff Davis.
All right, everybody, we're back. Apparently, I don't know how this works because I'm not hearing the music anymore. I just cut it dead. So anyway, welcome back. This shows how much we need our junior Julian to take care of this stuff. So, Dave, we were talking about education, and you just off air hit me with some knowledge, hit me with some information that is very interesting, and I can think of nothing better than for us to discuss that.
Yes, rumor mill. There's two things. Now, I'm going to say this rumor mill still. Haven't heard it officially. 2 candidates for state office, familiar names from the legislature. First of all, the Oklahoma Tax Commission. Former Senator Clark Jolly is set to resign at the end of this month, and the rumor is as soon as he's out of office in that capacity, that agency, he's announcing for state treasurer. That's number one. And then the big one, former Speaker of the House and head of Chickasaw Bank, I believe they call it, T.W. Shannon, is said to be shortly going to announce his run for governor, taking on Kevin Stitt.
So we're going to have a black-red man.
He's going to have the Chickasaw versus the Cherokee.
Oh, man.
Yes, 2 Indians going at it.
I am Crazy Horse. That's all I got to say. I am Crazy Horse. I forget all those people.
Yeah.
I'm for the Lakota.
Yeah.
I'm with the Lakota.
Yeah.
Did we talk about that yet?
Yeah, we did.
We did the
it
first
was a
segment.
Great story. No, well, last week we did a great.
Yeah, no, I mean the whole thing of the freedman situation and all that.
Oh, in pre-prep we did today.
Yeah, I just thought about it. That was going to be one of our big deals. Oh my goodness, Dave. Maybe we need to add a fourth segment to this. Remind me. Before we go, I want to discuss a book here, okay? And you can't see it at this distance unless you got really good eyes, or if you on your phone, you can expand it on your phone. But the title of it is The Relationship Between Government, Economics, and Freedom.
Freedom.
And it's by, check the name out, Kareem Abdul-Haq. Yeah, it's not a household.
So it's Irish.
Yeah, the good Irish. He's straight from Dublin. He's a wee fella, he is. No. And he wears green. He's a leprechaun. Kareem Abdul-Haq.
Yeah.
No, Kareem. No, I happened to meet him a few years ago, online actually, through some conservative black sites. And the guy's just brilliant. I mean, he's brilliant. He's written this book, which is, as I said, The Relationship Between Government, Economics, and Freedom. And then he's got his big book.
Ooh, the Bible.
The Bible. Yeah, it's big enough. This is huge. And he just revised it. It's got more pages now. But it's called the 13th Amendment Freedom Week Manual.
Yeah.
And it says, Educate While You Celebrate, by, again, Kareem Abdul-Haq. The whole premise of this book is that one of the most important events in American history is the ratification of the 13th Amendment.
Yes.
And which essentially truly gave freedom to the slaves.
Emancipation, yes.
Right. Well, no, not just
also,
emancipation, but actual total freedom.
Yeah.
The Emancipation Proclamation was an executive order, basically. And I mean, I understand it means basically the same emancipation, freedom, but I don't want people to get it confused.
In the context, it was used.
The Emancipation Proclamation was an executive order by Abraham Lincoln, which was only accepted by the states that rejected slavery. All the slave states actually rejected it, and therefore this actually led to...
There's even more than that. Lincoln specifically exempted Maryland and Kentucky from it. Said the slaves are still slaves, and those slave states that didn't secede.
Right. But exactly. But so basically, so, but the states that he declared emancipation in basically had already been emancipated, essentially. And so the ones who had slaves, including the territory of Oklahoma, those continued with their slaves. And one interesting thing that I found out was in the discussion with Kareem, you're aware of this situation. Yeah. And the fact is, they've tried to make a big deal out of Juneteenth.
Oh, don't
June 19th.
Yeah.
Okay. In fact, I guess June 19th is now officially a federal holiday.
It is. And no longer Columbus Day as a holiday. They did both in one fell swoop.
Yeah.
And whose suggestion was that? Senator James Lankford, a year and a half ago. Yeah.
Thank you for reminding us.
Yes.
Another reason, another bullet for our gun, our political weapon.
Figuratively only.
When information can be a bullet, that's when we're. But seriously, the Juneteenth, which we were made to believe was the end of slavery in America, but it wasn't, and the actual. Well, even this wasn't the official, but if you want to talk about something else actually officially occurring on a date, instead of June 19th, 5 days later, June 23rd, it was with the surrender of General
Stand Watie.
Choctaw
General, yes, Oklahoma. He led the 5 civilized tribes of Oklahoma in the Confederate War because the 5 tribes were in a treaty with the Confederacy.
Right.
And the Choctaw Nation was very much, in fact, the former principal chief was Greenwood. Yeah, that Greenwood LaFleur who was best friends with Jefferson Davis, president of the Confederacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing the
Yeah.
stuff you don't know?
But even after June 23rd, when it was totally, with end of slavery
Everyone had
in
surrendered.
the United States, in Indian Territory, also
Right.
known as Oklahoma, it wasn't until a year and a half later when each of the tribes signed a Reconstruction Treaty, the last of which was the Osage tribe on the third Monday in January, the 21st, said, okay, we're going to no longer keep any African slaves. So 1867 on January 21st, the third Monday, the day we celebrate ML King Day, is actually Emancipation Day in Oklahoma.
There you go.
So,
Who knew?
yeah.
More information you
Yeah.
can use, and I hope you do whenever you hear this talk about Juneteenth and all these different celebrations.
Another rumor, state representative.
Well, wait. Is this the big one you were going to talk about? Are we going there already, or is this a?
No, this is just on that.
Okay.
Their state representative from the Osage Territory, Sean Roberts, is considering a bill to make the third Monday in January Freedman Day in Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
He's got the work. I actually helped do some research on it for him. He's considering.
So it's a
doing
state holiday. It'll be a state holiday, essentially.
yeah, but it's the same day we're celebrating ML King Day anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not gonna be,
and I think more power to him. More power to him because I think MLK Day is something that is really overrated anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Now, stone me. No, stone him. No, and when it comes around,
you just hate black people.
yeah, I do. Especially the one I'm looking in the mirror every day. No, but no, we will deal with that on MLK Day next year again, which is my annual rant about that.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how we have allowed ourselves to trivialize different things. Now, let me understand. Be clear. It's like we're majoring in minors and minoring in majors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the 13th Amendment was actually ratified in December of 1865. Okay, that's when that's the official when America renounced slavery.
Yeah, and that was pretty fast.
Yeah,
to do
it
that
was very fast. And Abraham Lincoln, by the way, had passed away. He had already been shot.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a sad, tragic deal.
Mm-hmm.
He was shot by a Democrat, by the way. Just in case you wondered, it wasn't a Republican that got mad. It wasn't a militia member.
Yeah.
It was a Democrat that was sad about the war. But so many things we don't know, we need to know. And it's my hope that I can get Kareem Abdul-Haq in, who is, by the way, another amazing thing. He's a Muslim. So we cannot generalize, okay? Just like we used to think black people were lazy, dumb, Okies, Oklahoma people are this or that, Native Americans. You cannot do that. And I hope you're mature enough and been around, lived long enough to understand that every group in every nation on earth has talented, gifted people.
Sure.
Kareem is one of these people. He's an economist, or he studied economics. He actually works for the post office. But brilliant guy, and he's got another new book that once it comes out, we're going to share it with you. But if you want, you can get his books. You can get them on Amazon, or you can go to the 13th, the 13th Amendment FreedomWeek.com. 13th Amendment FreedomWeek.com. We'll post it up on our websites. And you can order them from him there. He's actually here, strangely enough. He's here for an organizational meeting, a kind of a convention of the people that support Juneteenth.
Yeah.
The Juneteenth Foundation is actually meeting in Tulsa this year. Even though it happened in Galveston, they're meeting in Tulsa. And he is trying to present the 13th Amendment Week and telling them to try to get them to incorporate this and make people aware of when the 13th, and now the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment works over all dealing with slaves.
Yeah.
That's one of the sad things, too, that we have stolen the 14th Amendment from Black Americans. That was a specific amendment focused
Yeah, it was
on
written in the context of the freed
freed slaves, but now it's in context of you can get an abortion because of the 14th Amendment. Illegal aliens are allowed to stay because of the 14th Amendment. You name it. It's kind of a throw everything in there you can.
Here's one of the things. Before that, the argument was that the limitations on government that are listed in the U.S. Constitution were believed to be only applied to the federal government, that the states could violate those things. And the important clause in it is that, or at least by the rulings, was that no, states, you are also limited. You cannot deny people's civil rights either. And so, yeah, it did have a much broader impact than I think people realized at the time.
Yeah, but it was specifically written for slaves.
Yeah, and
it
distinguished slaves from the Indian tribes. By the clause, they said people in the United States, and subject to the
jurisdiction thereof, right?
See, because the tribes had governmental autonomy.
Right.
And so it said, no, it's not going to apply to that.
Right.
You either can be a member of your tribe or a member of the United States. In fact, Greenwood LaFleur was one that gave up his right to be governed under the tribe. And he said, I'm going to stay here in Mississippi because I'm a member of the state Senate.
Right.
Yeah, I'm a government leader here, and successful businessman thanks to my 100 Negro slaves.
100 what slaves?
Negro slaves.
Oh, it's interesting how you say that.
Negro?
Yeah. It's an A instead of an O.
Oh, well, that's my Minnesota accent. So.
I remember.
I used to say knackle, not nickel. It's just
I remember a freshman in college. I had a teacher, and maybe we talked about it. She used to talk about niggers, niggers, and we would just look at each other and say, "What? What do you say?" So I actually went to see this lady.
Wow.
Even then, I'm 17, 18 years old, and I'm walking into this professor's office, and I do have to say that I respected her and she respected me. I made her give me a B on a term paper that she had marked me down because I capitalized the word black.
Yeah.
And she said, well, black's an adjective. I says, not when you're black.
Yeah. No, in the context you're using it.
Yeah, exactly. And then so all of a sudden she sat there a second and looked and said, huh, okay.
Yeah.
And she changed my grade.
Good.
Because, yeah. But I mean, because she had just never considered it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was never presented to her or never entered her mind that I'm speaking of a race of people and not a pigmentation or color.
Now, you see, Eddie, if you'd gone to a private college, you wouldn't have been able to impact that public college. See?
You're right.
There it is.
Thank you. See? Thank you for...
He's practicing what he preaches.
Yeah, from an early age.
Yeah.
From an early age.
Yeah, schooled your professor.
Yes. Hey, Lave, we better, because we're going to run out of time.
Yeah.
Let's get back to this thing about the people running for office.
Yeah.
And the big one. Let's get to the big one.
Oh, TW?
Yeah, what's happening? So now we know, a couple of weeks ago, we spoke of one challenger to Governor Stitt.
Yeah.
Now we have a new, I'd say bigger one.
Oh, sure.
Let you speak first, then I'll speak.
Well, okay. I was testifying at a interim study a few weeks ago, and during a break, I was talking to an Eastern Oklahoma lawmaker, David Hardin, actually, and I think I can say what he said. He said the tribes really still have a lot of enmity towards Stitt over that whole casino gaming compact thing. And T.W. Shannon is probably going to get a ton of campaign help from the tribes. And that's going to be a significant deal. Because I'm going to say, the tribes have gotten involved twice in the governor's race in my 40 years here. 1990, they wanted bingo. They got David Walters in. Okay, 2002, They wanted casino gaming. They got Brad Henry in. They got their way both times. So what do they want now? They just want to get rid of Stitt for sure. So I think this is going to be an interesting deal, seeing the tribes get involved in the Republican primary, because they normally put all their money in the Democrat party.
Yeah. And see, that's a problem. This is where I just want to pull the few hairs I have left on the top of my head out and say, what's wrong with you people? When the party should be uniting around a governor that you and I both agree has done a great job.
I think it's been our best governor.
Yeah. And so, yet, you've got these malcontents whose, I'm going to say it, whose true interest is not in the state of Oklahoma. I mean, you just said it. If T.W. Shannon is backed by Native Americans simply because the governor wanted to raise taxes on casinos, on that issue, they're not thinking of anybody. They're definitely not thinking of you and me.
Or more importantly, take away their exclusivity.
Yeah.
Because that's, to me, and Pat Campbell and I had it out on this, I said, it's a Jim Crow law.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, may not have been intended to be, but when you say only people of a certain ethnic class are allowed to have a certain industry of their own in Oklahoma?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's double dipping.
Yeah.
I mean, I've said this a long time. Either make up your mind. You're either a Native American, you're a Cherokee, a Choctaw, Chickasaw, whatever you are, whatever you want to be, or you're an American citizen. You can't ask the American government to do all of this for you at the same time. Only we can do this.
Yeah.
And we don't have to do that. Yeah. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it gets worse. Guess what the Cherokees are now saying? That they should, by all rights, have their own congressman in Congress. So think about it. You live in Muskogee or let's say Tahlequah, and now you have two congressmen, right? Because you now have Mark Wayne Mullen, who happens to be Cherokee anyway, and now you're going to have one representing just your tribe. That's a violation of the 14th Amendment, equal protection of our rights.
Well, you would think. But we've already thrown that out with other laws and exemptions that the Native Americans have.
Yeah.
And see, gets us back to what we talked about at the end of last week, the whole thing with why I said I am Crazy Horse. Crazy Horse just said, leave us alone.
Yeah.
Basically, leave us alone. It's kind of like Frederick Douglass said when white people say, what shall we do with the Negro? And Frederick Douglass says, I'll tell you what to do with the Negro. Do nothing with it. Leave us alone.
Yes.
Your meddling has already done enough damage. That's what Frederick Douglass said.
Yeah.
And it's the same with Native Americans.
Yeah.
The funny thing is that if you think about Cherokee, when you think of Cherokee, I don't think there's much Indian really in the Cherokees.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned Mark Wayne Mullen, who's a good friend. I love Mark Wayne Mullen. You know from past, I've defended him and still do, and he's a good buddy. But when I think of Mark Wayne Mullen, Native American does not come to mind.
No.
Okay. None of them. I mean, I don't know any of them.
Nor his blonde-haired wife, right? I mean, it's just, yeah.
There's a family, a clan of them. I think they're called the Bushy Heads. And they're Cherokee.
Yeah.
And the ones that I've come into contact, they're all not only blonde, they're like little Aryans.
Yeah.
Blonde, blue-eyed, just towhead blonde.
Yeah.
And so it's not my image of a Native American, okay?
Right.
So it kind of reminds me a little bit of black people that want to be black when it's to their credit, but then they don't want to be black when it's the negative part. But they're going to complain about what other black people have suffered or are suffering to get their own.
The fact is, I heard a black dad one time tell his kids when they said, what should we check off in this deal? And he said, whatever gives you the best advantage. I'm sorry, you turning red.
Oh, Dave, you got me. He's talking about me. He's talking about me. I did. I told my son one time. I said, whatever pays the most or opens the doors the widest today, that's what color you are.
Yeah.
That's what race you are.
That's a good dad. As far as
You got too good of a memory. But again, I was speaking to my son for his benefit.
That's right.
I wasn't speaking to the broader.
Your job wasn't to fix the public schools.
It was to fix my son. Oh, man. Oh, that's good. You got it. You got
Twice.
me. You got me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Yeah. Hey, while you're composing yourself, I just want to say I had a great visit with Randy Crable, Tulsa World. You're a fantastic veteran journalist. He said all that legislative redistricting we did last spring, based on the guesstimate census that we had, got to throw it all out. It was so bad. Only one legislative House seat in Tulsa County is currently within the margins of equal protection. We got to redraw all of them in Tulsa County, and I think in Oklahoma County, and then they got to do all the congressional seats. They still haven't done that. So this is going to be. They had to push it back to middle of November now, and their hushes can be about it. So it's going to be interesting. Within a month from now, we're going to be all talking about this, and it's going to be in a mad rush. Hurry up, because all the election boards got to redraw their precincts, and
So where do you think it's going to end up? I mean, do you think we're going to have more seats or less seats in
Tulsa's going to pick up more.
we're going to pick up?
Well, what's going to happen is the existing borders are just going to encroach and then squeeze down more. So instead of 22 House seats in Tulsa County, you might see 23 or 24, because they've just got to keep encroaching in.
How about for the federal elections? How's that affect the state?
yeah,
Has the state picked up? I would assume we've picked up.
Not enough to get a sixth one back.
Okay.
No, we used to have six,
Right.
20 years ago. But Kevin Hearn's district, which is now parts or all of 5 counties, he's got to shrink his borders. And according to Crable, he said, it could be that they're going to have to cut Wagner County in half and give some to Mullen, because Mullen's got to pick up a bunch. Southeastern Oklahoma
Is growing.
No, it really shrunk.
Oh, it shrunk.
Yeah, down in Little Dixie, it really shrunk more than they thought. And he's got to pick up a bunch. And they're thinking they're going to give Oklahoma 5th District, which is basically Oklahoma County, but they also have Shawnee and Seminole areas. They're going to probably have to give that over to Mark Wayne Mullen.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and at the same time, the Republicans are saying, my God, we got to do something to hang on to that 5th district, because remember, Stephanie Bice actually lost Oklahoma County in her defeat of Kendra Horn. If she didn't have those other 2 counties that she's losing,
Right.
to probably to Mullen, she wouldn't be in there. And so now people are thinking maybe we move, and this was my suggestion, Midwest City is a little part of Oklahoma County that is 4th District. It goes to Tom Cole. I'm thinking they might bring that whole border all the way up to El Reno, going right down the middle of downtown Oklahoma City, right in front of the Cox Convention Center. Everything on the south side of Oklahoma City is probably going to be in the 4th District.
Wow.
So,
Man. All right, we're in the weeds here.
Yeah. So it's going to be an interesting deal. And then
Yeah.
plus, there's other people wanting other issues to get on this special session coming up next month, including some kind of protection for people's health decision rights regarding vaccines.
One thing, because it's November and it, hopefully we can get people out. We can get everybody out to support this. The right people. We can
Yeah.
get the right people out. We need that. Okay, I guess we got a couple of minutes, but let's get back. Let's close out with this whole deal. So you've got Joy Hoffmeister running at this point unopposed on the
In
Democrat side.
Oh, yeah. If there's anything, it's token.
Right. So here's what's sad. At the same time, you've got 3 now people that have declared, at least 3 that I know of, for governor on the Republican side, when we have a governor that most Republicans should like.
Yeah.
So it tells me what I was getting to earlier with TW. I've been friends with TW for a long time. We've had on board together. He spoke at a banquet I had. Generally, I mean, I like him. He's a good guy.
He's
However,
a likable personality.
right. However, I'm thinking that this is a TW is about TW. I was wondering why we saw him so much on Fox and Newsmax and all these.
Newsmax,
You've seen
yeah.
him everywhere.
Yes.
Okay, no, he was on with Greg Gutfeld at night
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
Fox News Channel.
Yeah.
So this kind of explains, if anything, why isn't he running again against Langford, which he lost last time? I mean, if he was going to do a race, that's the one he should do. Okay, not running for governor.
I agree.
I mean, it'd be a bigger step for him to go to Washington and do that. So I've got to say, Kevin Stitt is my guy. Okay, I'm sticking with him, and I unashamedly say that. I think any Republican that votes for anybody but Kevin Stitt is not necessarily a rhino, but something is wrong with you. Something is wrong with you. There are some ulterior motives there, some kind of thing. And I invite you, if you disagree with me, please let me know, because this is something I really would love nothing more
Yes,
than to
I would
hash
like
out
you
this
to,
out.
because he's always arguing with me, and I'd like a break.
Yeah. Yes. So if you think that for some reason T.W. Shannon, the other gentleman,
Crawford.
Crawford, who's running.
He's saying thank you in my ear. I put his name out there.
Then we've got some issues to discuss. So we'll get more into this as the election season approaches. But we do thank you, man. We've covered quite a bit. We've jumped around and all that. But listen, as always, we thank you so much for joining us. We hope you'll continue to do so. I hope your family's doing well. Hope everything is well. We pray that you're safe from COVID and the Democrats.
There you go.
Let's go, Brandon.
Yes. Good day.
Have a good day.
Easy.
Oh, yeah. Have a good day. And this thing won't cut on.
Oh, this is great. I love this episode.
For some reason, I can't get